Welcome to another episode of Daniel Goes Outside. I am currently on my way to the Calgary airport because I am going to VMUG Connect, which the VMUG Connect I'm going to is VMUG Connect in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And yeah, it should be a good time. So this is actually the second year that VMUG Connect has been a thing. The first year was last year, which was VMUG Connect in St. Louis. And what VMUG did this year is they got rid of all of the user cons, and the user cons were like VMUG groups where they would a bunch of the VMUG communities would get together and just have a giant one-day event, and it was an in-person event. But rather than doing the VMUG user cons, they got rid of all of those and they just made a bunch of VMUG Connects. There's actually 5 VMUG Connects, and the first one was in Amsterdam, and VMUG Connect in Minneapolis is the second VMUG Connect this year. There's another one in Toronto, there's one in Dallas, and there's one in Orlando. And yeah, I'm only going to the Minneapolis one, but it should be a fun time.
Well, I made it through security and I was able to use my Nexus Pass for the first time. Also, I ran into a wild Steven. And we're just waiting for our flight to board, and then we're gonna be off to Minneapolis to go to VMUG Connect. While we are waiting for our flight to board, we're sitting in the Aspire Lounge, and Steven's playing with his DJI camera.
I'm struggling.
Trying to figure out how it works. How long have you had that thing for?
Probably over a year.
And he hasn't played with all the buttons and features? It's so weird. Well, we have made it to Minnesota and Minneapolis. And now we gotta go find our way to the hotel and get all checked into the hotel. So this is my room. And it's not too bad. 2 beds. And I get a view outside to like the city of Minneapolis, and it's actually kind of cool. But yeah, this is my view. I've always wondered what's on the other side of this door. Do you think it's gonna have anything? Whoa, never been able to enter another room like that.
Hello, Mr. Kier.
That's a little weird. Comes with a whole other human, but it like connects. But yes, Steven's room is directly beside mine. So yeah, I just got all checked into the Hilton Minneapolis, and this is actually the second time I've been to Minneapolis. I was here back in, I think, August for World of VUC Amplify, which took place also in Minneapolis, but it was more in like the University District, whereas this time the VMUG Connect for Minneapolis is taking place like downtown Minneapolis, which is really cool. It's like the first time I've been to the same city for 2 different kinds of conferences. The conference doesn't start until tomorrow, so there's no actual like check-in until tomorrow. So there's a bunch of people that are here already. So we are probably gonna go meet up with them and kind of go from there. So I'm walking downtown Minneapolis and they have like +15s, just like Calgary. I thought that was a Calgary only thing. It's super duper cool. Well, now I'm in the Minneapolis +15 thing. It's pretty much exactly like the Calgary one. But yeah, I didn't expect to see one here. Super cool. So we ended up going to the Mall of America, which is like, I guess the largest mall in all of America. And they got like a whole amusement park. It's kind of like America's version of West Edmonton Mall. This is really cool. Well, day 0 of VMUG Connect Minneapolis is coming to a close, and it was a very eventful day. We ended up going to the Mall of America, which is like the largest mall in America. which is very similar to West Edmonton Mall, except for the fact there's no like swimming pool or water park in the Mall of America, and there is in West Edmonton Mall, but apparently the Mall of America is bigger than West Edmonton Mall. And tomorrow will be the very first day of VMUG Connect, and I need to go get some sleep so that I am ready for the first day of VMUG Connect. Today is day one of VMUG Connect Minneapolis. It is also known as Pre-Connect, which is the day of registration, as well as a couple of sessions that happen after registration opens. Registration opens at about 11:30, so I'll be able to pick up my badge, and then I think the first session starts at 1. One of the sessions that I'm planning to attend is a session about conditional access policies, and it is hosted by John Tolles, who's the guy who runs Workplace Ninjas US. So that will be really cool to see. After that, my plan is to attend an Intel Home Lab session, which I think should be really cool because it was like an invite-only thing apparently, and I got selected to go to that, so I'm excited to do that. Well, I've gotten all checked into VMUG Connect. This is my badge, and I got some free swag, which is like a backpack thing, and a shirt that says VMUG Connect, and on the back, it shows all the different VMUG Connect locations for 2026. Well, day one of VMUG Connect has basically come to a close, and day one of VMUG Connect was the registration day as well as the Pre-Connect conference. Well, not the Pre-Connect conference, but the Pre-Connect day, where there was a few sessions because people were still getting in at random times, but I was already here because I was here yesterday. So today I attended a session that was about the 7 conditional access policies everybody needs, which was hosted by John Tolles, which was a really good session. I also ended up attending a session hosted by Martin, Everett, UK Dave, Chicago Dave. There's a lot of Daves that are in VMUG Connect, and their entire session was about how to pass, what it takes to pass the VCP exam. And they kind of inspired me to potentially take a VCP exam while at this VMUG Connect, because at the St. Louis VMUG Connect that I was at, I took the VCP VCF admin exam and passed. So maybe I'm going to take an exam here and see what happens. Also, one of the sessions I ended up attending was hosted by Intel, and it was all about running AI on your CPU, which yes has always been a thing, but if you are using a Xeon 4th gen or newer CPU, you have this instruction set called AMX, and AMX allows you to run AI models at decent speeds on your CPU. Like if you ever tried to run an AI model on your CPU, it's super duper slow. Like it works, but it's super slow. But if you were running it on a Xeon Gen 4 or newer, it's actually decently fast. Like not even just decently. Like they did a demo where they were showing how RAG would function, and it actually was faster than my RTX 8000 that I run my models on, which was crazy. Also, they talked about this thing called Intel Gaudi, which is like, it's not a GPU, but it is a GPU, but it's not. More like a PCI processing card that you can put inside a system, which allows for accelerated workloads. Now, one of the things with it is that you are technically doing PCI pass-through, so it's not like you're doing vGPU where you can slice and dice it and divvy it up to the different VMs, but you can still have this Intel Gaudi card in your server, and you can divvy it up to 8 different VMs, which is super duper cool. One of the things that Intel kind of hinted at is that they might actually come out with a graphics card that will support their potential version of vGPU or something similar where you can slice and dice it as much as needed. Now, when that happens, who knows? But that would be really cool because as far as I'm aware, the only way you can slice and dice a GPU is if you're running NVIDIA. So having a different competitor in the space is going to be really interesting to see what happens. Also, a lot of my friends are at VMUG Connect Minneapolis, so it's really great to connect with them and just kind of hang out and talk about everything. It's super great. But all in, the Intel AI session was really, really cool. I found it very fascinating. Also, the really interesting thing is that I kept asking the hardest, well, I wasn't intentionally asking the hardest questions, but I kept asking the most difficult questions, and they were questions that they couldn't answer completely because of various NDAs and forward-looking things and things that aren't released, but it was a really good session all in. Also, they had like a draw to win a home lab in a box kind of thing, and John Tolles won, which is super awesome. And that pretty much sums up day one of VMUG Connect Minneapolis. Now, I need to go get some sleep because day two of VMUG Connect starts bright and early and is a full day packed of stuff.
Well, today is day two of VMUG Connect Minneapolis, and it is the first super long day. And there's going to be a couple of general sessions. I don't know if they're considered keynotes because I think they're the same across each VMUG Connect, but they're keynotes / general sessions. So that's kind of what starts off the morning after breakfast. And then there's going to be a few sessions that I'm going to attend, and that's pretty much it.
Well, day two of VMUG Connect Minneapolis has come to a close, and holy smokes, today was a great day. There was a lot of really good sessions. In the keynote session, or the general session, or whatever the heck you want to call it, one of the things that they hinted at is that VCF may eventually support S3 as like it being its own S3, which I think is really cool. I don't know what I'll be able to do with that yet, but I think that's super cool. One of the things that's also really interesting with S3 right now is that Amazon, because Amazon created S3, Amazon just announced S3 files, which, reading what it says, it sounds like S3 files is a way that you can just like mount like an SMB share that is an S3 right on your system, which if VCF supports S3, and if maybe you can make S3 files work with it, that's super cool. One of the really cool things that they talked about at the keynote was how memory tiering works, in the sense that you can have memory tiering and have it offload like cold memory, like memory that's not actively being used, onto your NVMe storage, which I think is really, really cool because memory is very expensive right now. Also, one of the things that they talked about in the keynote was about vDefend and how you could use vDefend to prevent attacks like Brickstorm. And something that's really interesting with vDefend is that it's not like a full replacement for your firewall. It could be, depending on how you want to design everything, but what it can be is an additional layer on top of your existing firewall. And they were calling it microsegmentation at one point, but they're not fully calling it that anymore, but you can like segment based on the app. And it's really, really cool because I actually got to see it, and I'm very interested to play with that. Also, Chicago Dave did a session. It was actually his very first public speaking session, and his session was really cool because it was talking about how you can move a data center and how he was able to orchestrate it. Here's the super short version. Just contact Chicago Dave and he'll do it for you. But actually, here's the actual version where you can use Site Recovery Manager and use that to orchestrate the migration of data centers. And well, the other big piece is planning the heck out of it. Like, I believe he spent 6 months planning it and was able to execute the entire thing in a month, which is super cool. And that's no easy task. Also, one of the sessions I went to was about VCF troubleshooting. And what was really, really cool in that is that if you have VCF operations for logs, I think is what it's called, and if you were to ship all your logs to VCF operations log or whatever the heck it's fully called, you could actually do like a log compare to compare like the logs from the VM to your ESX to figure out where something is being resource constrained. But the even cooler thing is that if you don't have all of that configured, you could just export your Windows event logs and put that in the VCF operations for logs or whatever it's called, and compare it to the existing logs that are on there for like your ESX. So you could do it without even shipping all your logs, which I think is super cool and super beneficial. So I'm definitely going to be looking into that. Also, I talked to Chicago Dave, and he's going to take his VCF architect exam tomorrow at 11:30. So I started convincing everybody around to take their exams at 11:30. So there's a whole group of us that are going to take their exams at 11:30 tomorrow. And I'm going to take the VCF architect exam at 11:30 tomorrow. So we'll see how I do. I need to try to study a bit for that exam because I don't want to do it fully blind because I'm not that brave. And yeah, so I'm going to work on studying, and then tomorrow I'm going to take that exam. Today is day 3 of VMUG Connect Minneapolis. It is the last day of VMUG Connect Minneapolis, and it's kind of like a partial day. And it is also the day that I convinced like everybody to take their exam at 11:30. So there will be some sessions in the morning, and then I'm going to try the VCF Architect exam, along with a bunch of my friends that I convinced to do it at the same time. Also, after that, once VMUG Connect concludes, then it will be a travel day where I travel back to Calgary. Well, we made it back to Canada. They let us both back into Canada. And I think all in, VMUG Connect was a really awesome experience. We actually ended up taking the VCF Architect exam, which is the one I convinced everyone to go to at 11:30. But like most of the people didn't. But at the same time, Steven and I went early. I don't remember how early, but we went early and took the exam. And not everyone that said that they're going to go actually ended up going, but we took it. And I passed. Did you pass?
Yeah, I passed. Surprisingly, with very little prep, it was a nice and easy exam.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. You definitely need to study. Don't walk into that exam blind. There's a lot of things you need to know first. I'm going to have a blog post coming on that. All in, I think VMUG Connect Minneapolis edition was a great success. I had a heck of a lot of fun. How was your experience?
No, it was awesome. It was actually awesome. I don't look too enthusiastic right now just because it was a long day and a long flight, and I'm looking forward to getting back home and sleeping. But no, it was an awesome conference. It was good to see everyone. They had the leader training. The sponsors were great, so it was a good time.
What is this leader training you're talking about?
But they just bring leaders down at the beginning of the conference, and they do a whole bunch of leader training, giving us ideas on what we can do for events, how we can get sponsors, and just have successful local meetups.
But yeah, all in, a heck of a lot of fun. It was definitely a great success. I'm very glad I went. And yeah, let me know in the comments below if you've been to a VMUG Connect. There's about 5 of them, I think, 4 or 5 of them this year. Coming up next is Toronto, then I think Orlando and Dallas.
Yep.
And then there's also VMware Explorer, which is the big version of VMUG Connect, which isn't hosted by VMUG, but like VMUG is there. This is just a smaller version. Like I'd say the junior version of VMware Explorer. And yeah, that pretty much sums up this video. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to have an epically awesome day. Bye!